The justification for our shame is felt entirely through our bodies, and the ways that that's justified is through race and through gender and age and all of these categories that we have. And so just talking about and accepting your body as it is and naturally, I think it's anti-racist. I think it's, disrupting the patriarchy. I think it's doing like so many things at once, even though some people think it's just about sex and health.
And there's also space for sort of healing from other people's perceptions, because there's a lot of sort of conditioning coming from religious and, colonized perspectives around people with varying abilities that can cast it in a sort of negative light. It's not you that is the problem. It's the system that just doesn't know how to deal with your brilliance, And so as a little person, we can internalize that because we're still learning how all this works and have a difficulty differentiating ourselves from the construct. So it can be helpful in that way too, to just sort of be in a space with other people who have similar gifts and who have had similar experiences, sort of trying to navigate them.
Because there's so many layers in between the identities that we have. Sometimes it can both act as a boundary, but also as a space to heal. And through our projects itself, it is a part of us that wants to be liberated in that sense, and also the context of what we struggle and fight for.
A lot of times we hear these stories in the media about frontline workers and, hey, frontline workers are the ones keeping us all alive, but these people are never mentioned by name, right? We're suddenly somehow just this group of what I like to call commodities, frontline workers. They're as things, but they're actual people behind that. And so for me, it's very important to showcase us as people. Because by not doing that, what tends to happen is that we place more value and more weight on celebrity culture, public figures, as if what they have to say is more important than any of us. And
we're fighting for liberation, which is something we probably won't see in our lifetime. And to be continuously fighting for something and knowing that that's not what you're going to inherit, that's something that may be a legacy of yours, but definitely not something is emotionally draining. And so I really wanted to investigate the question of what we're leaving and how are we creating a better life for ourselves in this moment.
We have all the magic in the hood ourselves, from carpenters to welders, teachers, our grandmas, our recipes. Although we appreciate higher learning, higher education, our number one focus is that indigenous knowledge and the knowledge that comes from this community. We didn't come in $1 million organization, $1 million nonprofit. We came in with $500 in a dream. We're using sustainability, agriculture, art, and visuals to really regain power and empower our neighborhood. So we're bringing those resources and those opportunities back into the hood. We're completely trying to decolonize what we think about work, what we think about job, what we think about boss, what we think about responsibilities and accountability. And it's always been important to try to get the homies and those people that have been putting in the work paid first.
A lot of times people normalize whiteness, and that's not our reality. You feel me? So I think the more and more that you're able to be authentic, we have your back. We have all of you youth, we have your back. So if you ever need ideas or hookups or all of that kind of stuff, that's what this whole mentorship is about.
One thing that I've really just been coming to terms with is every day I want to do all that I can. And some of those days look like you got to rest, right? Because it weighs on us. And a part of the rest is also part of the resistance, because after we get our rest, we can show up stronger, mentally, emotionally.
Like when all the Black Lives Matter stuff happened.
Yes.
They only showed the rioting and the looting, 7%. Yes. It was only 7%. There was and it was that just goes to show you that they want it to look bad.
That's right. The media, with the whole Black Lives Matter here in Hawaii, it was a big thing, because I think that a lot of people of Native Hawaiian background had to sort of check their anti-Blackness. And Black people had to check their shit too. It was like a very interesting little, and being a kid in the middle that's both cultures, I just was quiet a lot. I just listened a lot and just remembered who said what, and
Yes, exactly.
and not to put the pressure on the youth, but speak on that Black Lives Matter shit. Don't let it disappear, right? Don't let like your family, your friends that have parents that love Trump. Those are uncomfortable conversations, but those are the needed ones.
Doing with health education, social justice, systems of power. As you look at a curriculum and building it out as a program, go to the end to figure out exactly what you want for your children to walk away with. That's a good important part of it. But also where you want it to take you, right? Like there's a journey that both of you get to have. Not only the people who are experiencing it, but you know, futuristically, or where do you really want to see yourself in your work life?
It's a fun thing to dream of, but I don't really feel like it's something I'll really pursue. It's just kind of, it's good information to have for when I do get to create curriculum in a classroom, or in a summer camp, or I don't know, in those spaces that I'm already kind of a part of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what if you dynamically allowed yourself to fully dream of something being possible? Like how far would that take you?
I mean, I am good at dreaming. I'm good at that. I don't know. I don't know how much of it would get like really thought out. You know,
Good.
It would just stay in my head.
The one thing about creating something new and big is that you let the how go. Because it's not your job to figure out how. It's your job to figure out what. Right? And really hang out in that space and allow for it, and allow for all the ideas to come of what you want it to really look like. Because the way creation works is that when you fully give yourself permission to see the vastness of the vision of what could be possible for you in this, the first next step is going to show up once you allow for it to get as big as it can be.
But my story of resistance came when I had to stand when no one was standing with me. And so it made me stronger, even though it was really painful. It was hurtful because I wanted people to see what I saw. I'm seeing the light. I'm seeing that, you know, we got to do this thing for the ancestors. We got to stand up for the lineage. Woo woo. We got to go back to Africa. My family was like, forget Africa. And so I had to stand with God in the spirit and say, even though no one understands us, I'm still going to stand with you.
Everything you just said is almost exactly how I'm feeling. And because, you know, I'm just like in my teen years, I'm still trying to figure everything out. For me, I know I'm trying to find my voice, find my sexuality, find everything really. But I also think internalized racism and internalized homophobia plays a big part into it as well, just due to the way I was raised. So I have to like break off these roots that I'm comfortable in to break in new ones, to plant new seeds.
And it's okay, but you're just learning like any other young person, sweetheart. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself, baby. Just know that you have this. And sister, I have to tell you, you know, we've all been in these bodies that were uncertain. You're no different than myself. You're not different. I've had times that I was overwhelmed by things and felt like I didn't know my direction, or felt like a spinning top.
One saying that I have and that we go by is, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. So it's really important for us from the very beginning to elbow our way in and make people feel really, really uncomfortable. Like, one, about like where city budgets are going to, like where's like funding getting allocated, about like where our funding is going for neighborhoods, neighborhood development, speed bumps, street lights, you know, all these like small, what we call low-hanging fruit, but that the hood don't have. I'm tired of living in a place where your zip code determines how long you live. And there's absolutely no farmers market south of 22nd Street, no natural grocery stores, nothing walkable. And you get a lot of more of your Carl's Jr.'s, McDonald's. A training that we did a few months ago is a transformative justice training, because I feel it's really important for groups like ours, grassroots collectives, to be able to mediate themselves and find like accountability. Because when organizations don't do this type of work, that's when people's stories start getting erased. We're working on transformative justice ways that's not punitive, that goes beyond restorative, that's just like restores things back to the problem. It's like, no, how do we do something better than what it was before? Because what it was before was obviously the problem that made things happen.
For my community impact project, I wanted to start a youth-centered club at my school. The reason I wanted to do this, starting off with the cultural memory, is because I grew up in Hawaii, and if you live in Hawaii or ever visited, you don't see much Black people. And although I am Asian as well, like, I don't look like them, especially in the dance community that I was in. I felt really out of place, and it made me feel like I was, like, in a way unimportant. I would be put in the back, even though I was just as talented. And I stopped dancing a couple years ago because of this. I feel like I should have held myself accountable. And through this, I should have just stuck to it, because I still would have been growing in dance, but instead I just shied away because I didn't feel like I was being seen.
I guess I'd like to hear more of your philosophy behind photographing strangers.
I guess it's just going forth and just like approaching people that you find intriguing, or if there's something about them that you find intriguing, and just talking to them like you guys are friends and being friendly. And I feel like it's a really special thing when you're able to learn the stories of people. And a lot of it is just like biting the bullet and just like approaching people. You think they're going to be mean and like shut you down, but most people want to talk.
Being African American and also being in Hawaii itself, it doesn't excuse us from being colonizers ourselves. If we want to be in a better place, if we had to do everything, we had to represent in the right way as well too. And also at the same time, if you're going to be on here, if you're going to be on land, having some form of activism is very key. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to devote your entire life to one like process, but giving time to thank the honor itself.
And when I first moved home, I got this assistant job for a New York Times piece, and it ended up being this really offensive article that exploited me and my loved ones. And it was called "To Want to Be Less Racist, Move to Hawaii." And I was the only local person on the team. And then after it was published, it kind of like tore apart like relationships within the community that me and other people who were in the project had to mend. And the journalist who did the piece was able to just kind of like walk away without any repercussions or accountability. And that's kind of been a repetitive thing in my career, where like I, like myself and other local journalists and storytellers, are kind of like exploited and turned into assistants, or just in a position where we're not really in authority despite us having better knowledge of versus like non-local journalists who parachute in. To combat this, I've spent the last year working on the Racial Utopia Myth project. We've kind of just been putting this piece together, and it just got published in National Geographic, of kind of just the research that we've been doing. And this has kind of been like our healing process and our way of taking that narrative back.
All of these things go somewhere. You know what I mean? These are like all the tributaries to the flow that is ultimately your life. Okay. And whether it becomes something that is lucrative for you or something that just quietly feeds your soul, there is not really a difference in value there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so beware capitalism trying to trick you into thinking that there is. Mm-hmm. Because it's not more valuable just because it seems like it makes for a good career, or it seems like it will support you. You'll find that. That's what my point is. Because there is so much magic that can unfold, and already seems like it has been. And with someone of your capacity for intuition, I can't imagine that your life won't lead you exactly where it needs you to go.
So there's been about a total of maybe 12 new teachers since I've started teaching 3 years ago, and I'm the only one who's not white.
Yeah, that's how they do it. I haven't had many teachers that look like me or that were women either. I've never had like a brown or black teacher.
We're so blinded by it because at the front of our classroom is, like many places, you know, people that don't look like us, people that don't know our history, people that don't even want to know if, like, hey, did your student go to bed hungry? Or
and then even when we talk about mental health, there's not even really anybody that looks like us that can help to cope with these things that go on in the brain. Like in high school, I ditched so much. There was a bookstore across the street. I ditched to go read their books instead.
And I won't say from who, but I was told from a program that at 20 years old that my dance career was done. And it was purely because of how I looked and my body type. Right after that, I would say about a year later, I started my own dance company.
And that's what we do to each other. We often dismiss each other's stories by saying, if we don't understand it, if it's not a part of our reality, then we sometimes resist it. And so sometimes within our own families, we have to almost be like the quote black sheep in order to stand for the lineage. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
I've been thinking a lot about resisting false binaries and how that relates to our bodies, which is just such a great example of a social binary that there's two genders, which just isn't true. And I mean, all the other false binaries that exist on our bodies and are placed on our bodies, to conceptualize what that means then, what is my body if it's not this half of the binary. And so for me, I guess that's where resistance stories comes in handy. It's giving me that confidence to claim my body as something else that I've never heard of, or something that someone else had a word for that I hadn't.
You decide who you are. You simply are. There's nothing out there that needs to define you. You simply are. Coming from Jamaica as an immigrant, in my country, you really want to raise your hand and be the smart kid in class. And that was the first time for me I found out that that was something that's associated with being quote unquote white, right? Oh, she thinks she's white. She thinks she's smart, because so much of who we are has been narrated by other voices that don't come from our community. It's beautiful to see that, like not only that diversity in our appearance, but how we behave, how we move in the world, who we are as people, our background. And so that's why we really started that project. I really wanted a place for my daughter to go and learn about Black people from other Black people, and not the media at large.
I'm like, what's the craziest thing I've heard? Do you guys wear clothes? Do you have cars? Are there cities? And interestingly, especially from Ghana, do you guys speak French? Or, oh, your family's from Africa, Ghanaian. Oh, okay, I've been to, Mozambique. Just like, yo, are we doing this right now?
Our generation, we stand upon the shoulders of those who came before us, who laid down the work when there was really no, there was no framework. There was just gonna do it, and it was really one of those things, like just a leap of faith and just believing that everybody deserves better.
Like the love for the land, like it can't just keep getting stolen, because then it's just desecrated, and I don't think that's, again, injustice, not fair. That's where I think I would like to get in most.
Definitely, and even like when we look at it as a healer for us, right? Like when we can just be in the presence of Aina, whether we are there, just release our energies and he can offer us, or even growing food, growing medicine. The Aina was our hospital.
My love for Aina is a thread that sews my whole life together. Through teaching and through physical work, there is an exchange of energy from me to Aina and Aina back to me. Teaching on the Mauna built something in me that I can't even explain. I didn't even realize, how much it would help me in my job transition a year later. Something nudged me in September 2019 to skip work, to skip life and turn around. And as I saw people gather, I needed to be there. It is a place of hurt from my past trauma, which stopped me from going through those gates for almost 2 decades of my life. When I got the tug at my na'au, I just stopped life and listened to it. There have been multiple instances where I didn't let myself get in the way of my kupuna, and this was definitely one of them. We got arrested that day. The machine still went and desecrated our aina. The impact that day and by the kia'i that stood in solidarity at the gate for months thereafter eventually stopped further development of this sacred space. We stopped more than traffic lights from being placed in our community to accommodate the crowds. We slayed a giant that day.
That was the little girl, a little wounded girl. But when I became a woman, I said, you can't afford to think like that anymore. If you weren't made special, if you don't believe that, then you have to really go back and get a deeper relationship with your divinity. Because that's why we have the ocean and the earth to stand on and the ocean to wash us and our grandmothers and loving loved ones to hold us. But when you have tools in your tool bag to fight with, then it doesn't have to overwhelm you.
My name is Noah Humphrey, and the name of a loved one I want to share would be my mom. She has definitely been the forefront of my life, and also been just the person that has really helped me to gather through the events in my life.
My name's Lyric, and who I want to dedicate today to is my dad. Even though we may not have the most stable relationship, he's taught me many things growing up Black in America and all the trials that I will have to face, and he's just helped me through a lot.
Hi, my name's Brina. The name of the loved one I'm gonna bring is my sister, Marcella. She's really helped me resonate, I guess, more with my Blackness. Since growing up, we grew up like with predominantly white people, I guess you could say, at some schools. So we never really got to find our Blackness. So with her, she's really started to teach me that, yeah.
Hi, I'm Lexi, and I guess the loved one that I want to bring with me today is my daughter. The story that emerges for me from Lillian is the end of generational trauma. After becoming a mom, it was very important for me that Lillian didn't necessarily experience some of the things that I experienced as a child, and that wasn't passed on to her. So I guess it's a story of new beginnings.
Hello, aloha, I'm Pulama. The loved one I would like to bring with me today is my great-great-grandmother, Aida Papulani. She had 9 kids and on Kauai, and her water got diverted because of the sugarcane plantations. And so we have records in our genealogy of her fighting in the courts to get her water back. So this story of resistance has helped in shaping our family reunion that's coming up, and having that be the center story that we will be teaching the future generations of our family.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Aurora, and the person I'm bringing with me today will be my mom, Kathy. And the new future story that is emerging for me, it's always been there, but I wasn't focusing on it, is resilience. She's gone through a lot and ultimately raised us all on her own. And as I get older and I'm out on my own, I'm realizing how hard that was, and what a great job she did.
Well, I'm going to bring the loved one I'm going to bring into the circle is my father. My father became an ancestor about maybe almost 2 years ago now. And what I'm remembering most as I birth this in myself more is his laughter, remembering to laugh. You know, sometimes when we get older, we have a lot of things on our plate. We be like, okay, we're responsible for this thing and that. but I'm remembering to laugh and remember my child self. The spirit told me to draw a hopscotch thing in my driveway and get a jump rope. And these are all things that I did as a child because I'm about to release a new Afro House CD. And it reminds me of when I was young and I used to dance all the time. So the spirit's like, but you're still that. So keep dancing. So I bring my father in because the continued legacy that he leaves with me is to remember joy, no matter how things may be in life. Always laugh and remember the joyful times and remember to manifest joy.
My name is Ahmad. Today I'm bringing, I don't know his name yet, but a new ancestor I just learned of, who moved from somewhere in South Carolina to the Sabine River area, East Texas, Louisiana. All the time, does it have to be displacement? Can people just make new lives in different places, bring new life to different areas, to different people?
Well, my name's Day. I'm Daisha Childs. And I want to bring with me today my childhood friend Braxton. He's recently deceased. He was autistic, so for shaping the future, I'd want to say because I had to help him with bullying a lot. So for shaping the future, I'd like for everyone to just be treated with kindness and clarity. So yeah, that's fine.
And so it takes me to one of the nature spirits that we deal with in the African tradition, Yeye Oshun. So she's the mother of the river in the Yoruba tradition. And as the mother of the river, she comes to remind us of our beauty. Before the world ever came to put any dust on us or perhaps tell us we weren't beautiful or weren't great, we were born into this knowing that we were divine. And so the Orisha Oshun is the mother of the river. She's the mother of the waters that come to heal us. So just as we have tears, she comes to dry our tears. So as we go on a journey, I would encourage all of you as you go into a journey to find your joy and to remember your joyful self. Go to a river, go to a source of water and touch that water on your head and cool your head, and rebalance yourself, reconnect yourself with what is beautiful. May money be poured upon our households and into our lives. May Mama Oshun bring sweetness to us. She represents honey. I didn't even know she was going to come through tonight, but she wants to speak. So I'm going to let her speak, right? But she loves honey. So whenever you feel like bitterness, don't be bitter. Don't be angry or don't be anything like that. Just go in the kitchen and touch some honey on your tongue. And she'll remind you to be sweet because she also is the mother of the heart chakra. So may our hearts always be aligned, whether the honey could be a person, or the honey could be money, or the honey could be some other great thing. But every day I wake up and I've learned to expect miracles. And that's how I live my life. So we sing, yeah, 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 oh, 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 yeah, 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 oh. I say, mother, mother, come, yeah, 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 oh, yeah, 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 oh, wama, yeah, 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 oh, wama. We're saying, wama, mother, come and bring us all the sweetness, because that's what she is, the mother of sweetness. So may your own mamas be blessed. May your own daddies be blessed, whether they're in heaven or on earth. May they guide your life, maybe listen to them and not be hard-headed, right? And I just love working with y'all. I find this to be a sweet nectar, a sweet honey in my life.
As a frontline worker, I haven't really been able to watch TV or go on the internet a lot. It brings me a lot of anxiety. So at the top, I got this painting that I painted, and it's supposed to be like a Hawaiian sunset, right? Which is kind of like what everybody sees or a lot of people think of when they think of Hawaii in general, right? But I've got these different news clippings, front pages, Department of Health vaccine appointments going unfilled on Maui. And then I have my candles, 4 candles, and a bunch of masks, and then the medical tape that I never used. At the beginning of the pandemic, I lost 3 cousins to coronavirus. They had pre-existing lung issues because of where they live in Fresno. And then immediately after, it was like, I have to keep working, dealing with COVID patients, COVID positives, now vaccinating. And a lot of people in my community and my coworkers and stuff, we can talk about this, yeah? But as soon as I talk to my family or I try and talk to some friends, there's this huge, no, we're good. We're blessed to be alive, which is true, right? But that really fucks with me because I need to talk about it with you. And in this weird sense, I need you to tell me that it's also bad for you when it's not. And that's just a weird spot that I'm at, because it's like, I see I'm putting in all this work and you're downplaying it, right? So I had 4 candles because for my little self-healing for now, I've been using a lot of aromatherapy, just different scents to calm my body and brain down because it's like constantly. I have this little thing, I don't know if you can see that. So it says, that's really effed up, but things will get better and we will see each other again, for we have hope. And that's something that I've been really hanging on to. And it's got wonderful colors too, so.
A lot of the stories of Hawaii are always told from like an outside perspective. I'm from Wahiawa originally, and I went to college in California for visual journalism. And I came back home in 2016. I've moved home for a lot of reasons, but one of them was that the fact that like no one really understood what our home was like. And they always had these like really ignorant perceptions. And it was like really, it was a contrast to the Hawaii that I knew growing up. So I kind of started just focusing on work around my community, and been using it as a tool to like connect better with who I am as a Filipino, who I am as a local, and uplifting other people within the community, and like through storytelling, and doing so through like relationship building and teaching other storytellers so that we can kind of like collectively take back these narratives that have been told for us in a way that is often incorrect or like offensive.
My writings and my study was around how women of color throughout the diaspora have formed community and fought oppression. And one of my focuses is around of like physical being and space holding and space creation.